The overall goal and importance of automated driving is to make travel easier, safer, and more efficient by reducing the number of fatalities from automobile accidents, making travel more readily available for the average consumer, and as well as just making the cars more fuel efficient on the road. Starting in 1969 with John McCarthy, who described the early concept of using computers to control cars that later became the design for automated driving. It then led to DARPA holding a competition in 2004 where engineers had to design cars that could drive itself across the Mojave Desert. Most of them failed to do even 7 miles. Around this time, more car companies started to introduce parking assist with their cars, which was the early form of automated driving. In 2009, Google became one of the first companies to dedicate itself to designing a self-driving car, with the rest of them following suit shortly after. Most other automotive companies started joining in around 2013, with the most promising one being Tesla, who is said to have a fully autonomous vehicle by 2017 but are still at only level 3 autonomy. And even this year, Nvidia had announced a special AI chip dedicated to self-driving cars, with the goal to have most car companies selling a fully autonomous vehicle by 2020. The levels of autonomy usually go from 0 to 5, going from no automation to limited assistance, all the way to level 2 and 3, where they start having a little bit more sophisticated control in the driving of the car, level 4 where it's almost completely autonomous, and then level 5 is fully autonomous vehicle. The current status of self-driving cars is that they are currently at level 3 autonomy, with the promise to be level 4 very soon, but it still requires a lot of testing in local cities in order to kind of gain the trust of citizens before they can be ready for purchase.
So as far as the legal side of autonomous vehicles, things are still being sorted out. The NHTSA, which is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, doesn't exactly provide any detailed regulations for autonomous vehicles. However, they do provide some policies and suggestions for things like the manufacturing of autonomous vehicles and the licensing of test drivers for these vehicles. But they leave most of the details up to the states to decide. Currently, there are some states that allow testing of autonomous vehicles on public roads, and this might raise the concern of what if there's an inevitable crash with one of these self-driving cars. In October of 2015, multiple car companies stated that they would take full liability if a crash occurs when their vehicle is in autonomous mode. Following this, accidents occurred and the manufacturer held up with their statement and took full liability. Take, for example, the accident with the self-driving car and a pedestrian in Tempe, Arizona. This occurred in March of 2018, where a homeless woman walking with her bike alongside of a road was hit and killed by an Uber car that was in autonomous mode, and this occurred at nighttime around 10 p.m. There can be placed liability on anyone in this situation, and the idea that the driver failed to take control of the car before it hit the woman, so the driver could be at fault, which would put liability on Uber. On another side, one could say that the car failed to recognize the woman on the side of the road and stop before it hit her, which would put blame on the manufacturer. So far, a number of bills have been introduced and a few legislations have been made regarding autonomous vehicles. One legislation required that the driver be alert at all times in the event that they need to take control of the vehicle. This is meant to help prevent accidents by putting the ultimate judgment into the human instead of the machine. Another legislation allows for handheld wireless devices to be used in an autonomous vehicle. Also, there's one bill that has yet to be decided upon that states if the manufacturer claims the vehicle meets safety requirements, then the vehicle may be tested on public roads. When discussing the ethical issues of autonomous vehicles, it's necessary to bring up the trolley problem. The trolley problem is the hypothetical situation where you're in control of a train track, and there's two different ways the train can go. One way, you know that it'll hit one person. Another way, it'll hit 5 people. You are in control of which way the train goes. So, do you save 1 person and kill 5, or do you save 5 people and kill 1? This situation is subjective and is highly dependable. With the upcoming of self-driving cars, this hypothetical situation becomes more realistic. So, the question is, how do we choose who to save? You could have a utilitarian approach that will work to save the most amount of people. However, the problem occurs when you have to come up with an algorithm to choose whose life is more valuable. And this is an option that is impossible for everyone to agree upon. One study by a professor consisted of asking a group of people how to take care of situations like this. Generally, people agreed that the fewest people should be harmed. However, their answers were changed when the question was taken personally. People stated that they would rather not choose to be in a car that might do harm to them or their loved ones. With results like these, the answer to this trolley problem becomes more complicated. More car manufacturers try not to answer these types of questions in the fear that it might drive away business. However, the founder of Google's self-driving car said that the car would hit whatever is smaller in the case of an inevitable crash. But a problem arises when you raise the question of what if the smaller thing is a child? These types of questions raise further complications for the development of the self-driving car. In December of 2016, a lawsuit was filed against Tesla regarding its automatic emergency braking system. The controversy arose from the fact that this automatic emergency braking wouldn't activate if the human driver took control by pressing on the acceleration pedal.
To begin to understand what kind of impact the introduction of self-driving cars into society will make, we can look back at the impact made by the invention of the first automobile. Before the first car was ever invented, people would have to ride bikes, horses, or just walk on foot everywhere they wanted to go. Traveling long distances proved to be very difficult for many. In 1886, the first vehicle was introduced to the public. People had never imagined anything like this would be possible. This caused society to transform in every way, economically, socially, politically, and even psychologically. Although it is currently unknown just how much society will be impacted by self-driving cars, it is easy for us to predict what would be changed. There could be a possible increase in migration away from the city. There could also be a rise of remote work arrangements, mass changes in the broad automotive industry and the job market, along with a debt reduction and deflation, and autonomous and efficient delivery and educational changes. There are many reasons for consumers or society as a whole to be wary about technology such as self-driving cars. When there is a notable accident or even a loss of life, many consumers begin to question the viability of these cars. In March 2018, a woman was hit and tragically killed by a self-driving car, making this the first fatal accident involving a self-driving car and a pedestrian. This vehicle was part of Uber's autonomous driving test fleet. It was in self-driving mode at the time of the accident and had an emergency backup driver behind the wheel. This sparked many concern for consumers worldwide. Like any new invention, the self-driving car comes with many concerns. Here are some common concerns that the average consumer may have on this product. Some consumers say that the car would not feel safe. Many consumers want to be in control of the vehicle at all times. Consumers do not want the car to make mistakes, meaning that if something happened and the car were involved in an accident, the consumer would rather be at total fault for the accident than it be because of an AI making decisions for them. Many consumers agree that they are not informed enough on the technology being used inside of these smart cars. Another concern is that the cost for a self-driving car is much too high, and they will probably just resort to driving a regular car if that is much more cost efficient. Lastly, a large number of consumers are concerned with the fact that the smart cars may be hackable. The Safely Ensuring Lives, Future, Deployment, and Research in Vehicle Evolution Act, or Self-Drive Act, was passed by the U.S. House of Representatives. Its goal is to establish a federal framework for the regulation of self-driving cars. This will drastically increase the possible numbers of autonomous vehicles on the road.